The following is a transcript of a conversation between Matías De Stefano, referred to as me, and his higher self, referred to as I am. 19th of May, 2021. Cinema. Me. We build our home from painting, music, literature, along with poetry, sculpture, dance, and architecture. What art do we have left? I am. The seventh art. Me. Cinema. I am. Meaning movement in Greek kine. It is the last of the fine arts to appear, the most recent and the only one that is contemporary, since it was not experienced at any other historical moment, unlike the other arts. That's why it could lead us to the controversy of whether it is really part of the fine arts, although there is no doubt that it is an art extended today to the hands of every individual with a filming device. Me. Personally, I love this art, to be able to bring into living images with movement the ideas that only exist in the imagination, thus allowing the projection of thoughts, emotions, sensations, messages, and entertainment. I am. It is clear that it is one of the most direct forms of communication of this time. Me. Why do we speak of cinema in the ankle chakra and not in the eyes? I am. Because cinema is movement and it is forward projection. The main idea is to bring ideas into action and to mobilize a person to live their dreams. Cinema is made up of projections, that is to say, to launch oneself forward, projectare. It is a visual literature that mobilizes people inwardly and, in many cases, outwardly. Today, cinema is the most widespread art and the one that reaches the whole world, so it is a window into the past, the present, and above all, into the future, where we can see the ideas of what is to come, expose the problems to be solved. Me. Cinema succeeds in launching us into the future. I am. That's right. Me. And what is your past? To understand the future. I am. The idea of putting images in motion was designed both in France and in the United States. In the latter case, it was Thomas Edison who created something called the kinetoscope, a machine that, like a sort of microscope or telescope, by placing your eyes over a viewfinder and turning a crank, you could see images moving in a circle that gave the appearance of movement. But the real image of the cinema was originated by two brothers named Lumière, sons of a Parisian photographer, who managed to generate a roll of film with a succession of photographs taken within a short time of each other of the same situation, which when put consecutively on a roll, which was rotated rapidly in front of a spotlight, showed the images projected on a wall in an apparent movement. Me. Genius. I am. The first projection took place in a small bar in Paris in December 1895, which was attended by very few people, distrustful of what it might be. But it didn't take a day for the word to spread to consecutive screenings with long queues, just to see soundless projections of everyday images without narrative. Although the Lumière brothers believed that this would have no practical future, word spread throughout Europe, even crossing over to the Americas. In the United States, several interested parties proposed to make the so-called cinematograph cross the ocean. It became popular, with thousands of viewers watching everyday images. And an enemy. Me. Edison, sure. I am. That's right. Me. When didn't he? This man, who was once an idol in the history books, has become the villain of the movies today, now that all his business and economic chicanery to take all the rights, leaving several inventors like Tesla in poverty and claiming their patents, is now well known. I am. It was a natural struggle in a constantly developing world. Suddenly, there were a lot of people doing a lot of interesting things, and those who had a little bit of power couldn't tolerate so much competition. Cinema spread throughout New York and the east coast of the United States, spawning a number of film producers, until Thomas Edison decided to mount a legal prosecution against all of them. This made all the producers decide to move away from Edison's jurisdiction, moving to the newly pacified West Coast, where, in a small town called Hollywood, Sacred Wood, They founded the first film companies close to the Mexican border in order to escape the law in case Edison persecuted them. Me. So Hollywood and its almost magical greatness came about because of people escaping the law and Edison's persecution. I can't believe it. Ha ha. I am. Every darkness has its light, and Edison's lights lit stars on Earth. At first, the cinema had no artistic purpose, but an economic one. It was the only means of communication capable of reaching the thousands of immigrants who came to the States without knowing English. So it became a very important means of propaganda. Economics and politics were key to those who ran this still unrecognized art form. The actors and actresses were all white, Caucasian, and considered permanent employees of the production companies, which meant that the actors themselves were constantly seen to be designing the star system, the birth of Hollywood idiosyncrasy. But in the expansion of cinema, actors began to unite to represent each other and to defend their rights. This awakened the spirit of cinema as art, directed by those who thought artistically, not by those who wanted to sell, but to show, to tell stories. Me. It awakens the soul of cinema. I am. Exactly. Literature began to move to the screen, and theatre began to be projected. Adding these two arts together, the first styles of cinema emerged, which would soon diversify when the first colour film was made in London, bringing the art of painting to the big screen. At this time, it was necessary to paint each of the frames by hand, as was done in the first exhibition with sound at the Paris exhibition of 1900. It was not until 1927, however, when after arrangements by the engineer Forrest to adapt the sound recording on the same tape, Warner Brothers would finally make sound films famous, which would put an end to silent films incorporating the art of music into the projection. Dance, scenography, with its architecture, all the arts were useful in the development of this seventh art that integrated all the others, unifying artists and engineers from all areas. Me. That's why I find it fascinating, because it's the way the world can look at all kinds of art. Since I was little, I always saw all my memories in the form of films. I always saw myself designing these films for the world, and I always knew that somehow or other my stories would one day be seen on the big screen, because I like a little bit of all the arts. I always considered that one of the fields I would have liked to work in if I didn't do what I do would have been film. I am. And it almost was. Me. Yes, almost. And all unintentionally. In 2017, after my considered failure of the Way of the Dragon, in which I went into a huge depression that led me to a month of autistic state, the day I said, I put myself at the disposal of the universe because my will has not been worth it. I received a call from an actor who had worked in a Hollywood film. He told me he wanted to find a way to tell my story, but in his own way. For this, he introduced me to an Argentinian producer, with whom I set off on various adventures. He asked me to write a film idea, and I wrote a script almost finished. Another famous producer from Argentina said that it lacked some arrangements, but that it was a very original content, although more Hollywood-like. The problem was to get the attention of such giants, so we finally decided to make a documentary film. I called it The Rememberer, and in it I would introduce the philosophy of my memories and my history as I remembered it. Filming it was a pleasure for me, seeing the cameramen, how they worked, the logistics, the direction, the production, the sound. And although it wasn't a big production with actors or set design or stagecraft, there was a camera art, photography, and me as an actor throughout. Anyway, most of the things recorded were at moments when I was in a very different tune to the acting, perhaps connecting, talking to myself, moments when I never really knew they were there recording me. The material was so much, they could even make a documentary series out of it. As excited as I was about it all, there was something that kept me uncomfortable. I am. What? Me. Exposing myself to the world in this way, almost as if I was acting. It was hard to determine whether it was a documentary narrated in the first person or science fiction. In fact, they couldn't categorize it. One moment on Mount Tabor, Israel, I had a moment of loss of strength in the face of this, and I said to myself that I didn't want to go on. I sat down in the forest next to a grazing cow, and I could feel the presence of a teacher in front of me. I said to him, I don't know if I'm willing to expose my life in this way, as if I were a clown at a fair. To which the teacher replied, what you are today is not real. You don't exist. Matias is a tool for your mission. Let go of the idea of believing that it is your life that you expose, when it was you who designed this life as a tool for exposure. I am. Right. Me. At that moment, I understood that Matias is ephemeral, that he is a tool, he is a mask. He told me, you were the producer of this life, the director of your actions, the script writer of your story. Your eyes are the cameras that show your path. Your imagination is the direction of photography. Your body is the costume art that covers the actor that lies in your personality. You are the editor of your reality, the art director that manifests the scenography. You are the creative that proposes new routes of narrative or image, the writer of your own destiny. So don't be afraid to act in your own film. That reminded me of this image. When you have an awakening of consciousness and realize that you are everything. I am. Because it is. Life is art. And that art arises by the observing mind projecting itself in order to take action of that which, by vibration, it has written through time and space. You produce your own performance, and within you have the capacity to be creative, writer, and director of this reality. Life is like a great film set on which each individual acts. Try to imagine your life as if you were being filmed, with soundtracks in the background. You are a character in the story you have written. To limit the artistic potential of your personality out of fear is what prevents you from living the film of your life, and it ends up being simply one of the first films of the Lumiere brothers, a simple recording of data of an everyday, monotonous act. Me. At that moment, I understood that I could give more, that many stories live in me, that they should be told, and that my personality is only a tool in movement in the cinema that is life. And I set out to be recorded. This generated a beautiful documentary that I am deeply grateful for. The 1-hour film was screened in several cinemas, and the 13-part documentary was bought by National Geographic, where it was broadcast in several Latin American countries. This generated a lot of buzz, leading us to sit down with Disney Latin America in Miami. Disney wanted to present my stories of Atlantis, to tell my memories of other lives in an epic way. But something happened. Not only did they want to tell it their way, but there were interests behind it that I didn't like at all. Beyond the fact that cinema has managed to become an art form, producers are still in certain way businessmen who have to sell an idea and buy everything. This made me discover situations that I didn't like at all, in which, because of Disney's interests in me, the producer of my own documentary did things behind my back, lying to all of us in terms of rights, contracts, and things that I don't understand. When I found out about this, I closed the door. I don't want to be lied to, and what I do because I like it. I enjoy it for art, to tell a story, and not to belong. So, in a subtle way and kind way, I could say I sent everyone to their homes, and I went to mine. Cinema ended there for me, at least for now. I am. Stories had to take hold in the same way as their writer and lead actor, you. There was another story to take care of first, for which you had to expose yourself. This path. Me. Yes, the YOSOY. I am. This path will give you the energy for everything else. Exposed every day to a camera filming your discursive performance, living a constant film with thousands of viewers, you recognize yourself as the producer, director, and artist of your own reality. Me. Understanding life as a film, as a work of art being recorded, helps us to understand that what we live is not a question of survival, but of transcendence, of understanding ourselves as actors of reality, directors of destiny, producers of our existence. I am. The seventh art builds in the future from the projection of a narrative. Observe yourself living your own film. Remember, imagine when and how you wrote the script of what you live. Discover the style you want to give to this film. Take the reins of the direction of your stories. Learn to direct your artistic personality. Awaken the talent to live the adventures that arise in your life. Me. I recognize myself as the star of my existence. I am. Awaken the soul, shine forth, and be in motion. Me. I am ready. I am. Light. Camera. Action.